This video is about the Annapurna Circuit, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The Annapurna Circuit has long been rated one of the best treks in the world, but a lot has changed in the last few years. I've recently returned from the trip and I've got some feedback that you should definitely hear before you book a trip. Hey guys, welcome to Trekking FAQs. My name's Chase, and if we're just meeting, I am a strength and conditioning coach from Australia. And in 2012, I started a business called Base Camp, which focuses on the fitness needs of trekkers and mountaineers. So every day, almost for the last 6 or 7 years, I've been surrounded by trekkers who have come and gone from Nepal. So the opinions that I share in this video aren't just mine, they're a collection of the people that I've surrounded myself with over the last few years. So in this video, I'm reviewing the Annapurna Circuit. I think it's time that there's an honest review of this trek. I've completed the trek twice, and most recently just a month ago, October 2018. And there's a lot that has changed over the last few years between those two trips that I want to talk about in this video. All right, now that you've got some context, let's kick things off with a positive note about the things that I love about this trek, the Annapurna Circuit. The Annapurna Circuit is perhaps one of the most recognisable treks in Nepal, if not the world. Its popularity and reputation as an unforgettable experience has been increasing steadily since the opening of the area to trekking tourism in the 70s. In its original form, the trek lasted for more than 20 days, and it was consistently voted as the best long-distance trek in the world, probably due to the fact that in its original form, the trek included a wide variety of climate zones, from the tropical feeling that you get walking through the rice paddies at 600 metres above sea level, to the high altitude desert above 5,000 metres and some of the world's highest peaks. As with any trek in the Himalayas, it becomes incredibly humbling to be around some of the greatest physical masses on this planet, and it's definitely something that everyone should do at least once in their lifetime. But the highlights of this trip aren't just physical, they're also cultural. As you ascend up through the valley, you see the meeting of two vastly distinct and very different cultures. On the southern end of the trek, you meet locals whom are largely of Indian descent. They practice Hinduism, they produce rice and spend most of their time in the valley. As you ascend to higher altitude, you meet the Manang people, who are much more involved and influenced by Tibetan culture. They predominantly practice Tibetan Buddhism and mainly subsist off yak and goat herds and their extensive trade networks. This cultural change, coupled with the environmental change as you go through the trek, makes for really interesting trekking. These are the things that I loved about this trek in 2011 when I first completed it, and they're the reasons why I wanted to come back and bring people again to this area so they could experience it for themselves. And it's only now that I'm realizing the extent of the changes that have happened in this area, and they're things that don't get talked about and that I haven't seen in any other reviews. So these are the bad things about the Annapurna Circuit. Firstly, the new four-wheel drive track that runs through the Annapurna Circuit. If this is the first that you're hearing about this, then I'm glad you're watching this video. When I was there for the first time in 2011, the Jeep track was just starting to make an impact on various areas throughout the route. Part of the reason for me to returning to this area was to see with my own eyes and witness the changes that have been taking place since the construction of this Jeep track, which by now spans almost the entire trek. I found it difficult to recommend this trek to people not knowing what the real situation was with the Jeep track, so I went to check it out. Now, you may have heard, as I have, mainly from trekking companies, is that there is alternative walking paths that have been built, which means you can escape the Jeep track for the vast majority of the trek. However, I found that to be almost entirely untrue. There's only really about 40% of alternative trails where you can get away from the Jeep track. And upon rediscovering just how impossibly steep and sheer some of these valleys are, I find it very hard to believe that the Nepalese authorities are ever going to be able to establish a Jeep track and a walking track through some of these very steep, difficult sections. So the current reality of the Annapurna Circuit is this. What was once a world-class trekking area is now almost 90% passable in a Jeep. In fact, if you were to take full advantage of the Jeep roads, hiking only the trails that have been left untouched, you could complete the trek in only 3 days. Only 27 kilometres of the original 211 kilometres remains untouched by the Jeep trail. So the modern experience of the Annapurna Circuit has changed a lot. Rather than getting dropped off at the starting point, doing the trek, and then getting picked up at the end point, these days you have to decide where you're going to start. Is it going to be at the actual beginning, or are you going to skip certain points with the Jeep? Should you start in Bessie Shahar, the original starting point of the trek, you'll not only be walking on the Jeep road, but you'll also be passing by 2 gigantic foreign-owned hydroelectric stations. If that's not appealing to you, you can start at Charmey, for instance. That's typically day 4 or thereabouts on the original itinerary. But then you have to make the same decision every single day, whether you're going to get a Jeep or whether you're going to keep putting up with walking on the Jeep road. Do you pursue walking on the Jeep track? Do you keep putting up with the noise, the dust, the incessant honking of horns? Or do you give in and become part of the problem and hire someone to take you in a Jeep? Now, I'm not sure that it's just me that I've had far too much privilege in terms of spending so much time in truly wild places like Tasmania and New Zealand. So in order to get a balanced opinion, I decided to reach out to a few other people who had done the Annapurna Circuit recently to find out in particular how the Jeep track affected them. Here's some good news from Heidi, who I think went in the off season around November or December. She says, "I didn't feel the Jeep track detracted from the surroundings, and sometimes they were a welcome relief on the feet due to the surface being more stable. However, I wouldn't recommend walking from Jomsom to Tatapani, as this is heavily used with a vehicle road." Thanks, Heidi, for that feedback. I'm sure there's plenty of people happy to hear a positive side. Now we're going to hear from Sophie, who says, "The beauty of hiking through the original path wherever possible, because it was not destroyed, was just non-comparable in any way to the Jeep tracks. It was a horrible experience to breathe all the dust raised by those Jeeps." Definitely a few people that would agree with you on that one. I think, Sophie, thanks for chiming in. Also got some feedback from Luke, who says, "I didn't feel the Jeep track affected my experience too much, especially on the way up. But the way from Mustang to Tatapani, I found having to walk on the dirt road quite boring and a little annoying. So I decided to take a Jeep most of the way down to Pokhara." And this is a common theme that I've found with people along the Annapurna Circuit these days, especially those who are doing the whole trip, is that it's now common to jump in and out of a Jeep to skip the parts that aren't so enjoyable walking along the way. So the trek now is almost more of a hybrid journey on car and on foot, versus the original trail, which is obviously just walking. So I've covered the good, the bad, now it's time for the ugly. And there's 3 main points that I want to cover here. And the first of which is that this trek is overcrowded. Despite the Nepalese government having elaborate organisations like Trekkers Information Management System and multiple fee structures, there appears to be no real measurement and certainly no restriction of numbers on this trek. This is something that has been done all around the world, for instance Machu Picchu and Kilimanjaro, and I think it's time for Nepal to implement something similar. Point 2, rubbish and garbage all over the trail. With the increased amount of people that are doing this trek every single year, this means more rubbish is being brought in and more plastic especially is being used. Despite the very informative signs and the pits that have been dug as a solution to hide the garbage, the fact is that many people still discard their rubbish all over the trail. That's why I encourage everyone to follow the 10 pieces movement. It's an incredible movement that gets people to take 10 pieces of rubbish every time they go hiking. It's a really great way of spreading the word and doing something about this problem. I'm also advocating for incineration stations to be placed along the trek to properly dispose of the rubbish. I'll post a link below to the site if you want to learn more about those stations. Definitely jump on board and hashtag 10 pieces every time you do it. Third and final point is that with more humans comes more human waste. And with so many people on this trail, many of them first-time trekkers and people unfamiliar with how to conduct their business in the outdoors, the result is truly ugly. I mean, it's on the trail. It's not uncommon to see this. And my suggestion is that some of the fees from the permits trekkers pay go back into providing compostable toilets in certain places along the trails. And these issues don't only pertain to the Annapurna Circuit. You'll find them cropping up on the 3 major treks, the Everest Base Camp trek and the other one being the Annapurna Sanctuary. Now, I realise I'm coming across a little negative here, which is difficult for me because I love this area and it honestly breaks my heart to give it a bad rap, but I can't in good conscience recommend this trek to anyone who's seeking an immersive experience in nature, or someone looking for the quietude of the wilderness, because those moments are just so rare on the Annapurna Circuit. The fact is that trekking is becoming more and more popular, and we need to account for this increased popularity with an investment in planning and infrastructure. What's even more pressing is the looming Visit Nepal year in 2020, which is the government's efforts at recuperating some of the losses after the 2015 earthquake. Now, I was there at the time on the earthquake on Annapurna, and believe me, I am behind Nepal. One of my major missions in life is to get more people into the outdoors, especially into the Himalayas. But it's difficult for me to encourage people to go to Nepal when the situation is as it is, with refuse, human waste, and overcrowding. So this is where I need your help to share this video, to feed this information back to trekking providers and relevant parties, to show them that these are the problems that need to be fixed before we start encouraging 1 million people to go to the mountains, literally. So there you have it. You've got in-depth and up-to-date feedback from myself and others about the current state of the Annapurna Circuit, and now you can make an informed decision now that you know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I would love to know what you think. Maybe you've made your mind up already. Answer me this: would you still consider doing the Annapurna Circuit knowing what you know now, or would you choose something else? Let me know in the comment section below. That's all for this trip review, guys. Thanks for tuning in. If you found it helpful, please hit the like button, and also have a scan through my YouTube channel and subscribe if you like the content for more videos about preparing for treks and getting fit as well. You can see information on my fitness programs at basecampfit.com, and just remember, the more you prepare for the trip, the more you will enjoy it. If you've got any other questions, feel free to contact me on Facebook and join our Facebook group, Trekking FAQs. It's an open forum where you can post and answer questions from other people who are preparing to go on treks. And if you believe, like me, we need help from the Nepalese government cleaning up after ourselves with our own human waste, our own plastic and our rubbish, and limiting the amount of us that can go on these treks, then please share this video, feed the information back to the people who can make the decision to change and improve your experience on a trek. That's all from me, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Trekking FAQs. My name's Chase. I'll see you on the summit.